So, let's talk about the Alibaba Investors Day secret. How can I not cover about Alibaba's Investors Day when I have such a love and hate relationship with this company? Full disclaimer though, I still own all the shares that I declared previously in my all-in video and will probably continue buying whenever I have excess cash lying around. Anyway, for all of you who are following me who have vested interest as well, I'm just going to provide you with some of my brief thoughts and interpretation of the Investor Day that happened just last Friday. So this is not meant to be the most comprehensive or the most all-encompassing. So I'm just going to jump into the important portions of the 90-minute long presentation and probably tease out some interesting points that I came across and provide my opinions on it if I do have one. So not everyone is so opinionated and I will probably not comment on every single detail. If not, this video will probably drag on to as long as 3 hours. But for those of you who are still interested in the Investors Day presentation, please feel free to go and watch the replays in full. I think a lot of YouTubers have been streaming it as well, so just a simple YouTube search will do. So just to manage your expectations a little, I didn't think that the Investor Day was particularly mind-blowing or particularly game-changing. I initially thought that they would have focused a lot more on their cloud technology, especially in the cloud computing industry, and maybe go more in-depth in their strategy on how to elevate and harness those capabilities. Although it was kind of briefly touched upon by Daniel, he instead focused on another vertical, which I will be going into it later on in this later part of the video. So stay on if you want to hear what I have to say on Daniel's portion. So you know what to do first. Smash the like button, of course. If not, I cannot proceed. Like I physically cannot proceed. So you smashed it? Great, let's go. So essentially, you can split the Investors Day into two main portions. So the first portion was led by the two CFOs. So Maggie, who is the current CFO, and Toby, which is deputy. So both of them were really much more grounded in numbers and the specific business vertical strategy. So on top of that, Toby was also very upfront with the challenges faced by the company, which was actually amplified during the recent earnings report, where a lot of us actually did our own analysis. So the second part was essentially addressed by Daniel with regards to the overall group strategy. So in the first part, Maggie started off by saying that there will be a revamp in how the group will be presenting their financial statements via a new segmentation in name of more transparency. So I believe that many investors have been lamenting that it's very hard to keep track of all the different growth prospects and the development of the group's investment, and more importantly, the different business verticals that they have. Hence, with this new segmentation, they attempted to provide more clarity and also a more optionality in how analysts and investors can interpret and do their own comparisons in their own time. So to me, this new segmentation also suggests implicitly who those results were targeted at. So if you were to look at it, the China commerce arm still suggests that the muzzle is primarily pointed at JD and Pinduoduo. The international commerce is probably focused at Sea Limited with their Shopee arm. The local consumer services probably looks towards Meituan. Cainiao is principally in charge of eroding JD's economic moat. And of course, our lovely cloud is welcoming competition from Baidu, Tencent and Huawei. So I'm not going to talk about the digital media and the innovation initiatives because they will probably stay loss-making and are inconsequential in the grander scheme of things. So if you're to look at it from my perspective, it does seem like they have a much clearer focus with this new breakdown, and we can also make our respective relative judgment in accordance to how the different business verticals are positioned in the industry and how they compare with all the different competitors that I've pointed out previously. So Toby also quickly walked us through the different developmental stage of their businesses. It's good that they outline the company's view on the maturity and set the expectations on the different priority that they set out to achieve, at least in the short to medium term. So my only disagreement would be to set Lazada further back into the curve, because I believe that the potential for at least the international commerce arm, at least in the Southeast Asia region, has yet to fully crystallize, but we shall see. Because ultimately, Sea Limited seems like they have a lot of room to grow. So this is just the management's representation anyway, so don't take it to heart. You can have your own judgment as well. So on top of that, Toby also did make the comment that they are aware of the current headwinds faced by the Alibaba Group. So the two main points that were brought up were the slowing economy, which is a macro factor, and the increasing competition. So they can't technically do much about the economy because that's essentially the job of Chairman Xi and his team. So he did speak briefly on how Alibaba is managing it. So the broad range strategy that they believe would be effective is that offense is the best defense. So it's quite clear that there is a trend of heightened spending from their competitors in terms of marketing and user acquisition cost. So for those of you who have been long-time viewers of this channel and also my Twitter account, quick plug, remember to help follow my Twitter account as well. You should know that I have already set forth my thesis for outlining why Alibaba is intentionally slowing their growth to stifle competitors from their unsustainable business practices. So the discussion was actually surrounding customer management revenue, which is CMR for short, and was discussed extensively in this particular video on their earnings report. So please do check it out if you want the full explanation. Essentially, my views are in line with what Toby has set out to do. Keeping competitors in check is just one part of the equation. They still have to focus on value creation to help improve customers' loyalty and also customer stickiness. So Toby outlined 3 simple points. First, they're looking into broadening their membership programs to provide more value-added services like faster delivery and even more savings. Second, by identifying new brands in subcategories to enrich the product supply, and of course, I'm giving you a much wide array of choices. And lastly, to improve the logistics and delivery experience, which is practically the answer to JD's mode. So mind you, Cainiao is going to be the silent killer as they work towards building an international infrastructure based on their connections and their underlying network. So today, 21% of China's daily parcels are handled by Cainiao. At this point, I'm really just waiting for the flywheel to start turning. Lastly, on Toby's part, he discussed the 7 main investment themes, which I will probably not spend too much time and go into details because most of them are actually quite self-explanatory. So he did focus on 3 specific themes though. They are namely green economy, silver economy, and rural revitalization. So I'll leave the green economy to the last because I think it will bridge very nicely to Daniel's part, which is the second part of the presentation. So the silver economy just suggests that the aging population of China, where Alibaba might need to focus some efforts into healthcare and medical services, which I would speculate most of these investments will come under Ali Health. And secondly, the rural revitalization has a primary focus in agriculture production in the lower tier cities, which seem to be the new focus of the commerce arm in Alibaba today, as they start their war with Pinduoduo. So in Toby's conclusion, they remain steadfast to ensure sustained business growth. If not, there will be no game to even compete in. And also, he assured investors that the near-term challenges cannot and will not shake their vision and strategy for the future. Now, moving on to Daniel's part. So I think the most interesting slide was actually the first slide, where he depicts the group's mission, strategic engine, and last but not least, its foundation. So I think it has been rather clear that Alibaba do have a separate focus on ESG and green tech, especially when they are one of the leading tech companies in China. That said, it does come as a sudden surprise when they pivoted their explanation to ESG being the foundation of what they all do in Alibaba. Later in the presentation, Daniel did spend a good 10 minutes to talk about Alibaba's ESG strategy and ESG goals, which I will not be going into details also because it feels to me like how other countries are doing their pledging on the international stage. You can read it on your own. I think it's fairly easy to digest. So the funny thing was, I think we all know that 2021 was a pretty exceptional year for Alibaba. So especially for Alibaba investors as well, like you and me. So the CCP has also made several drastic moves in the last 18 months, give or take, with their introduction of their game plan for China in the coming 5 years. So this investor day do seem like a private message to Chairman Xi and his team. So at the end of the day, I'm not complaining though, because I believe this push towards green tech is only at the beginning of the S-curve. I know that these talks surrounding saving the earth started as early as decades ago probably, but this time might be slightly different because China does seem on board with this entire rhetoric and this entire narrative the whole world would like to push forward. And if you really want to do something drastic and you want something drastic to happen, you need to take drastic actions. And I'm quite sure China is probably one of those countries being capable of doing drastic actions. So new technology, new innovation, and more importantly, new business models is going to be invented and evolved in this green tech space. And let's not forget that at its core, Alibaba is still a tech company, even though investors might want to think otherwise. So let's see if this explicit alignment with the government will pay dividends in the near future for the company or not. Anyway, to briefly touch on some points, the essence of commerce will remain largely the same, with which satisfying consumers' demand remain at the center of most decision-making actions in Alibaba Group, despite the changing commerce environment and the commerce business models. So Daniel briefly talked about the growth opportunity equation, which involved user growth times the share of wallet expansion times value creation. So the user growth opportunity is primarily derived from the less developed region. And let's not forget that, hey, Alibaba is probably going to reach 1 billion in users by 2022. So the share of wallet expansion describes the potential category that they have yet to establish a very strong foothold in. And food, health, and travel opportunities seems to be rather lacking, which are all sitting at the lower end of the scale given in the presentation slides. So lastly, on value creation, I will just essentially plonk the diagram in that they fed us because I'm quite tired from repeating. But yes, I think Alibaba and the entire Alibaba team should just focus on this diagram if they forget everything else from this investors presentation. So Daniel also assured investors that, hey, cloud computing and data intelligence are the fundamental enablers of digitalization for different industries and the entire economy by and large. And just a quick quiz. Anybody still remember what is Alibaba's mission? Yes, it's to make it easy to do business everywhere in this digital era. So it seems like cloud and data intelligence is going to remain as the fundamental building block for the company, which will allow it to stay relevant even in the coming decades or so. So to sum it all up, from the CFO's perspective, they seem pretty cognizant in what they wish to achieve with the different business verticals, and with the new segregation, allows for more tighter comparisons and better focus, which ties in with this recent announcement about allowing business leaders to have more autonomy, to be more flexible in decision making in face of the greater competition. So competition also don't seem to be of great concern, at least that's how they wish to portray themselves. And sustainable business growth is probably one of their biggest and top priority. So Daniel, on the other hand, was really focused on delivering the ESG message and aligning themselves, at least on the strategic front, with the government. So he probably also played a more reassuring role on how Alibaba intends to tackle the medium-term problems and essentially tried to future-proof Alibaba as a business. So with that, do leave in the comment section down below what were your main takeaways from this Alibaba Investor Day. Also, Moomoo is running a Christmas activity until the 31st of December 2021. So where you get a free Apple share and $40 of cash coupon when you make your first deposit amounting to around 2,700 Sing dollars or equivalent. So you can also stand a chance to win an iPhone 13, an AirPods 3 and many more during the limited time rewards promotion. So you can use my referral link down below in the description, and you will also get 180 days of unlimited commission-free trades and real-time market data. And I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I'll see you on the moon. Goodbye!